My name is Abraham Laboriel, and I'm so glad to be invited to be part of this beautiful bass magazine and do this interview. I want to share my life, my story, my music, my heart. I was born and raised in Mexico City, Mexico, July 17th, 1947. I moved to the United States in July 19th, 1968. I got married and I stayed. So I've been in the United States in 68, and I did not start to play the electric bass until 1971. My major was the rhythm guitar. I went to school in Boston, in Berkeley, and one day I discovered that I could play the bass in 1971. The teachers allowed me to do my ensemble work for the last 2 years of school as a bass player, so that opened all the doors and my life changed forever. One of the things that I think I skipped sharing with you is that when I was 4 years old, I was very mischievous and I lost the tip of my index finger. So my father started to teach me how to play guitar with the remainder of 3 fingers, and it became very, very difficult because the tip of this finger is very important for guitar playing. But with the bass, I discovered that if I press with the first phalanx of the finger, I don't need to leave any open strings underneath, and suddenly just all the doors started to open up. And shortly after I started to play, I made my first recording in the United States, and my very first jazz album with Gary Burton for ECM Records, and the name of the record is The New Quartet. So from 1971, my life changed forever as a bass player. Then the second recording that I did was for a rock and roll singer named Andy Pratt, who was signed to CBS Records. Then I graduated in 72. I started to work with Henry Mancini, Michel Legrand, and Johnny Mathis. Eventually, I moved to Los Angeles in 1976, and then my full-time recording career started here in LA. And we have 2 beautiful boys. The young one is Mateo Andres, who's a producer, composer, arranger. He has a degree from Berkeley as what they call MP&E, music production and engineering. And then Abe Jr., who's the firstborn, who is right now considered one of the most respected drummers in the world. And it just gives me great pride to tell you that when he was 2.5 years old, my wife, in order to complete her medical career, she's a pediatrician, we were doing the internship in Cleveland, and we felt that it was really important that our son did not feel abandoned by both of us, because she was doing about 118 hours a week. So I stopped working as a musician for those 2 years. And I had the privilege of being with my son intimately for 2 years, which very few fathers had the chance to do. And so that created a very special bond between us. And then when we finally came to Los Angeles, everything just changed in the most wonderful way. I started to record with everybody and work with everybody. And since then until now, I've been participating in more than 4,000 recording sessions, each session being approximately 3 hours. So it's a lot of time of making music for everybody and playing the bass. And the reason why I'm sharing these things is because I want to encourage all of you to tell you that, first of all, discover something that you love to do. And then trust that what you love to do is going to be communicated to people, so that we are doubly blessed, because we can not only live in a world where we have discovered something that we love to do, but we are allowed to do that every day for a living. Being a bass player is about a lot of responsibility. In my clinics, I always talk about how my teacher said to me that the bass player is the house where all the other musicians go to find refuge and shelter. And if we forget to function as a bass player, we are leaving all the other musicians homeless. And so the main function of being the bass player is to play the bass line. And the bass line gives us a great, immense privilege, harmonically speaking, that all the chords are named from the bass. So that could be the root. If we change that note, like if that's an E major, so if the bass note is a low E, you call it a E major over E. But if you change the bass note, then even though it's still an E major, it becomes a different chord, So that becomes a E over D or E over C sharp. The bass player names all the chords. And so our responsibility is to be very sensitive to what name are we giving people's chords, so that we don't run into conflict with the people that wrote the song, the people that are singing the song, etc., etc., etc. My encouragement to all of you is to have dialogue. Play in such a way that it is open for dialogue, so that people can tell you yes or no, or I like that, don't do that. So you will always be aware that every note that you play, that is welcome, In that case, I'm going from, E with E on the bass to an A with E on the bass to a B with E on the bass or a G. So even though the bass is not changing, the chords are changing, and therefore the fact that the bass is not changing, you're still changing the name of the of the note, the name of the chord. So as a bass player, that's one of my favorite things to do, is to take a song and see it transformed by the notes that I choose to play, and then that has become a little bit of a signature, and that's part of the reason why people keep inviting me and calling me to be part of their projects. Through the years, I've developed what's known as a 5-finger technique. So I can play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as I'm demonstrating all these things, it's really important that you always allow yourself to feel something. As a bass player or as a musician in general, don't play without feeling something, you know. Because if you just play and you're not feeling, you know, what you play is what you become. So please try to feel something, no matter what is it that you're practicing, so that even if you're demonstrating, you know, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That it has some kind of a groove, because what you play is who you become. Etc., etc. Always allow yourself to feel something, no matter what it is. And that way, if that's the way you practice, when the time comes to make music for real, you will be able to have experiences like the one we just had, that it is real music, you know, no matter what is it that you're practicing. I'm glad that you reminded me of that. I remember when we did that track, I Must Tell Jesus with Crystal, that things transpired between all of us as people, that the presence of the Lord was very strong, and things really got cemented in all of us, you know. And that's more what I remember than the actual bass line, you know. But then, as the years went by, when I was able to listen to those tracks, I would be moved that I was allowed to participate in something that beautiful, you know. Then, most recently, she was invited to do something with Andre Crouch, and I had the privilege of playing behind her, you know. The song is called "I Give You Glory" that Andre Crouch wrote, and Crystal came and heavens open, you know. There are certain moments. How can I put it? One of my very first recording sessions in Los Angeles was for Leo Sayer, and it involved Michael Omartian, Jeff Porcaro, Larry Carlton, Paulinho da Costa, myself, and all I can remember is that at the end of the session, we were all hugging and just listening to the playback with total abandon, and I knew that my life had entered a completely different season, eternally, you know. At the time, I did not realize that it was just a matter of time before I was going to start going to Michael Omartian's house for prayer, and all kinds of wonderful things happen. Recently, Larry Carlton has invited me to come to Nashville to be part of his records, and then when Larry lived here, it was a crucial part in my development as a recording studio. We did a lot of work, and he shaped a lot of things and concepts in my heart. Some of the work that we did with Al Jarreau, I was privileged to be a crucial part of Al's career, and that was so. After so many thousands of of hours in the studio, it's really really hard to remember. But when you bring things up like what you just mentioned about Crystal Lewis, I know that I'm gonna sound a little too emotional, but this is the truth. I feel that the Lord has been gracious to me to allow me to be part of something that transcends time. Because every so often I watch something or listen to something and I said, man, I remember that day, and it was, I can't believe that that's me on bass. The other day I was watching some silly movie and El DeBarge started to sing, the rhythm of the night, and that was me, with John Robinson and Carlos Rios, and wow, it sounded and it felt so good, and I said to myself, thank you, Lord, that at the time when they called me and says, can you be here at 1 o'clock? There is this last minute thing that we have to do for a film. I had no idea that it was going to have that kind of an impact, And really, full circle, Gary Burton just celebrated 50 years in show business. So he invited all the people that were a crucial part of his career in Boston to do a show with him. And so he opened the show with the group that we recorded that new quartet album. So it was Mick Goodrick on guitar, Harry Blazer on drums, Gary and myself. And then as the show went on, I was able to run into people that had been a crucial part of my life, like John Scofield and Joey Lovano, Chick Corea, Steve Swallow. Little by little, all these people started to show up, and it was just incredible because we hadn't seen each other in years. And I was grateful that was my very first recording session ever in the United States.